Yo, what's going on? What's poppin'? It's your boy, Mr. Locario, the bad boy of the dating game. And in this video, I want to show you a quick clip of my new bad boy membership program. This one is called 5 Ways to Quickly Get Out of a Dry Spell. Listen, I understand, guys, there's going to be times where you're out here, you're hooking up with girls, everything is going in that direction. And then what happens is 3 weeks are going by, you ain't getting them popping off. A month has gone by, 2 months has gone by, and nothing is going down. So in this program, I teach you 5 ways to get out of this dry spell quickly so you don't have to keep being in this dry spell, all right? So what I want you to do is want you to watch this quick clip. When you're done, click the link below so you can check out this entire audio video program. Plus, you can look at all the other programs on the Bad Boy membership. Check this out. What I'm going to talk about is what is a dry spell. I'm also going to talk about why you must embrace and accept the dry spell. And then I'm going to talk about 5 ways to quickly get out of the dry spell. All right. So let's just jump right into this because there's a lot to go over. And I want to make sure that you guys are getting all of the information that you need to make this work for you. Right. So now, first of all, what is a dry spell? So a dry spell is to go through a period of time without something. Now, in this program, I'm going to be basically talking about you going without sex. So when we talk about the dry spell, we're talking about going through a long period of time without sex. Right. And I'm specifically talking about this in the sense of you being a guy out there interacting with different women, you being that single guy trying to make shit happen, hooking up with girls and all that other stuff, right? Now, guys can actually go through a dry spell in a relationship in certain situations because a guy will be in a relationship, him and his girl's not really fucking like they used to and all that other type of stuff will happen. But we're not talking about that. I'm talking about you being out here in these streets, hollering at these girls, making things happen. And what happens is that you have been going out and hooking up with girls. Everything seems cool. And then all of a sudden you realize, damn, 3 weeks went by and I haven't had anything pop off. Then that turns into a month. Then that turns into 2 months and 3 months and 4 months. And you're like, damn, 4 months have passed by and I haven't had anything going on. And this is, before things were going, smoothly. I was getting sex. Everything was cool. Then the girls that I was hooking up with, they fell off and I couldn't get any new girls. So now I'm in this dry spell and it's been months. And when is this going to end? How do I get out of this? Right. And this is what I'm going to be talking about in this program today. You feel me? Now, why must you actually embrace and accept the dry spell? Right. And the reason why you got to accept and embrace it is because you have to understand that it's going to happen, right? Once you accept that it's going to happen, you're not going to be surprised when it does happen. You understand? And there's going to be times where you go through a few dry spells in your situations, but it's inevitable that it's going to happen. And the reason why it's inevitable that it's going to happen is because that's just the ebb and flow of the game, right? In all other aspects of life, right? There's going to be times where things are popping off, everything is going exactly according to plan, and there's going to be times where things don't. You understand? There's going to be times like even, for example, in business, in certain aspects of business, there's a time of year where shit is popping off real crazy, the business is going good, then it might take a dip, and then it might come back up, then it'll take a dip. So it, goes back and forth. So you got to understand the ebb and flow of the game, and this is no different when it comes to you getting with girls, hooking up with girls. This type of stuff will happen. So what's good about embracing it and accepting it is to understand that it's part of the game so that you don't start to doubt yourself. Because what happens is that when it comes to the whole thing of a dry spell, guys start to doubt themselves. They start to say, well, man, am I, not as attractive as I thought I was? Am I falling off? Am I not as good looking? Drastically switch up your routine. So you want to have sort of a paradigm shift. You want to drastically switch this up. So what does that mean? That means that you want to basically start to do things that you've never really done before or hardly ever done, right? And so, for example, I had a guy who he would go out and 99% of the time what he would do to get girls is approach women on the street. That was his thing, right? And so he would do that and he was getting some traction. He would hook up with girls here and there. Things would go down. But then what happened was he got into his dry spell. And so what he did or what he needed to do, right, was he switched up the routine. He did a totally different thing. So instead of just approaching women on the street, right, he would still do that here and there, but he added something to his arsenal. So he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to start doing the online thing, right? So he did the online thing in addition to approaching women on the street. So he was switching that routine up by, doing online stuff or hitting up chicks in a social circle. Or what happened is that he would go to events or bars that he'd never been to before. Right? So when you drastically switch up your routine, what you're doing is that you're shifting your reality. And what I mean by that is that when you shift your reality, you're doing different things to put yourself in different situations that you've never been in before, so that you're able to meet different types of women that you would have never met before. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times when you get into your regular routine, you're probably going to the same places, meeting the same types of women who frequent those same places because that is also their routines. You understand what I'm saying? But when you switch up your routine, when you drastically switch it up, what you're doing is that you're shifting what is going on in the situations, which means that you're actually shifting the types of women and the types of interactions that you're going to be having. So this could be even something as simple as going on a new dating site. So let's say you've been only using Tinder. Switch up your shit and go on Bumble. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say you've only been hollering at chicks at the bars in your neighborhood. You feel what I'm saying? Like, switch up the routine and go to another neighborhood. You feel what I'm saying? So what happens is that when you switch up the routine, what you're doing is that you're switching up the possibilities of outcomes that you can have. So a lot of times what happens is you'll get into that dry spell because your routine, you've exhausted the options in that routine, right? And so when you do something different, then what happens is that you're putting yourself in a different situation, right? And see, what I want you to do is I want you to think long and hard about this, right? Because there's so many different ways that you can switch up your routine, right? So let's say, for example, you go out to a lot of nightclubs and bars, right? You can switch up your routine by going out to meet women in the day at coffee shops. You feel what I'm saying? Another thing of switching your routine would be, let's say if all you're doing is online dating, right? Switch up your routine by going out and approaching girls in the street. You know what I'm saying? Another thing of switching your routine would be, let's say if all you're doing is, mainly approaching girls in the street, go to singles events and, go to those types of meetups and meet women there, right? So what happens is when you switch your routine, you're switching up your reality, which in turn, you are basically giving yourself more opportunities for different outcomes. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times what happens is when you're in that dry spell, it's because you're so stuck in that routine. You see what I'm saying? And you don't give yourself, enough like options to put yourself in different situations so that you can actually have different outcomes. You see what I'm saying? Because even when you switch your routine, what happens is that your perspective can also switch up because you're in a different environment, you're in a different situation, you're in a different scene than you usually are. And so what happens is that you see different women, you experience different situations, and that can bring out different energy within you, which is going to be attractive to the women, right? So the thing is that when you're doing your routine, what happens is that you're extremely safe in your routine and, you get comfortable, and that's understandable. But what you want to do is drastically switch it up because that can really help, speed up the process of that dry spell to where you'll get out of it quicker because now you've put yourself in different situations, right? So don't underestimate how switching up that routine, putting yourself in a different situation can really, really help you out in the game. Because again, what happens is that once you're in those different environments, right, then you are presented the opportunity to be in a different situation so that you can, create different outcomes. You understand what I'm saying? So that's number two. So number two is is that you want to definitely switch up that routine. Now, number 3. Now, this is the third way to get out of a dry spell. And this is something that a lot of guys don't really utilize, right? And in order for this to work, you have to be a guy who's been out there, who's doing things, who's actually making things happen, who's out there really, moving and shaking, right? But anybody can do this at some point once they get to this level. But number 3 is this. The third way to quickly get out of this dry spell is